Alex looked at Emma the same way he had seen men look at women on TV. "Emma, please," he said softly. "Let's do that thing again. The one the man and woman did in the video. I like it, it's so nice." Tears welled up in Emma's eyes as she shook her head. "No, brother Alex, I won't do that again. It hurts so much. I never want to do it in my life again." Are you wondering how these children reached such a point? Why is Alex asking Emma to do something so unspeakable? How did it get here? And where are their parents in all of this? Stay with me as we uncover the heartbreaking story of Emma and Alex. 9-year-old Alex and his 7-year-old sister Emma were often left alone at home. Their parents, Mr. and Mrs. Carter, were hardworking professionals. Alex and Emma had grown used to being by themselves, though it was far from something they enjoyed. They tried to entertain themselves with board games or drawing, but the TV always seemed to lure them in. One particular evening, Alex was watching a late-night show featuring bright lights, loud music, and adults laughing and talking in a way that seemed odd to him. The scenes moved quickly, filled with excitement and intrigue. Curiously, he called out to Emma, who was in the other room. "Emma, come here. Look at this." Alex's voice echoed down the hallway. Intrigued, Emma rushed into the living room and sat beside her brother. The two stared wide-eyed at the screen, mesmerized by the flashing colors and fast-paced music. They didn't understand much of what was being said, but it seemed fun, so they kept watching. "Why are they doing that?" Emma asked innocently, her forehead creased in confusion. She didn't understand the content, but felt it was different from the shows they usually watched. "I don't know," Alex replied. "Maybe it's something fun that grown-ups do." The scenes continued, leaving their young minds confused yet curious. They didn't know it yet, but the images they were watching weren't meant for their eyes. They were unknowingly stepping into a world far more complex than their understanding. Days passed after Alex and Emma had watched that strange TV show, but the images remained fresh in their minds. The curiosity planted within them grew, soon becoming something they couldn't ignore. One afternoon, while their parents were at work, Alex looked at Emma, his face lit up with excitement. "Emma, do you remember that thing we saw on TV?" he asked quietly, a mischievous glint in his eyes. Emma's face tensed as the unsettling images crept back into her thoughts. "I don't know, brother Alex. It didn't feel right," Emma replied, her voice hesitant. But Alex had already made up his mind. "Let's try it," he said with a playful smile, unaware of the weight of his words. To him, it seemed like just another harmless adventure. Emma frowned, feeling uneasy. "No, brother Alex, Mom said we shouldn't copy things we see on TV," she said softly. But Alex, oblivious to the implications, persisted. "Come on, Emma, it's just pretend. No one will know." Emma hesitated, unsure of what to do. Alex added, "Remember when you went outside that day even though Mom and Dad told us not to? No one found out, but if you don't do this with me, I'll tell Dad." Emma panicked, not knowing what to do. Neither of them fully understood what they were about to do, but Alex's words made her feel trapped. Finally, she agreed. She took a deep breath and nodded. "Okay, brother Alex, let's do it." In that moment, the curiosity that had always driven Alex and Emma to explore together took a dark turn. Unlike the sweet adventures they usually shared, this time something was different. As they entered the room and lay on the bed, Emma felt a sharp pain. She screamed, running into the living room. "Ah, this is weird, brother Alex. I never want to do this again in my life," she cried, clutching her chest as tears streamed down her face. The pain was unbearable, far worse than she had imagined. Alex, on the other hand, didn't understand why Emma was so upset and still wanted to continue, unaware of how terribly wrong this situation had become. But Emma's heart raced with fear, and she deeply knew that this wasn't right. This wasn't like the harmless adventures they used to share. This time, there was no laughter, no joy, only pain and deep regret. Emma's discomfort grew with each passing day. She could see the changes in Alex's behavior, and it scared her. He had become more stubborn, more insistent, and Emma could feel that he was no longer the playful brother she once knew. The innocence that had once defined their bond seemed to have slipped away. One afternoon, when their mother came home briefly to pick up some documents, Emma felt an overwhelming need to speak up. She couldn't bear the silence any longer. "Mom, can I talk to you?" she asked hesitantly, her voice trembling as she approached her mother. Mrs. Carter, distracted by phone calls and her growing to-do list, barely looked up. "Not now, Emma, I'm in a hurry," she replied, juggling calls and glancing at her watch. Emma stood there for a moment, her heart sinking. Her mother sighed, clearly stressed. "Later, darling, be a good girl, all right?" She barely acknowledged her daughter's concern as she once again stepped out the door. Emma's tiny voice faded into the background, drowned by the noise of her mother's busy life. She retreated to her room, tears streaming down her cheeks. Her heart ached, but she felt invisible in a home that was supposed to be a safe place. All she wanted was for her mother to hear her, to understand the weight of her pain. One afternoon, after yet another attempt by Alex to ask Emma to imitate an inappropriate scene from the show they had watched, Emma couldn't take it anymore. She ran out of the house, her small body shaking with fear and confusion. She didn't know where to go. She found herself standing at the door of their kind neighbor, Aunt Grace. "What happened, Emma?" Aunt Grace asked, kneeling down to meet her at eye level. Emma couldn't hold it in any longer. She burst into uncontrollable tears, sobbing as she spilled everything: Alex's request, the growing fear inside her, and the discomfort. Aunt Grace wrapped Emma in a comforting hug. "You did the right thing by telling me," she said softly, her voice warm. "You don't have to carry this alone. I'm here for you, and we'll figure this out." Emma clung to Aunt Grace, finally feeling a sense of relief. The weight that had been pressing on her chest seemed to lift slightly. "I'm scared," Emma whispered. "What should I do, Aunt?" Aunt Grace smiled gently and wiped her tears. "Don't worry, my dear. I'll help you. You're safe now." The parents were shocked, and at first, they were in defense mode. "Alex wouldn't do something like that," Mr. Carter said, his voice firm with disbelief. Maybe they misunderstood what they saw. Mrs. Carter tried to downplay the seriousness of the situation. But Aunt Grace was firm. "Children see what they see, and they're given enough material to make sense of it," she said. "You've been so focused on work that you've forgotten to see what your children are watching. This is a warning," she added, her voice steady and filled with concern. Mr. and Mrs. Carter were silent, realizing that their actions, although unintentional, had made their children vulnerable to dangers they hadn't even considered. Accepting this was not easy for them, but they knew they had to change. Carter took immediate action to correct the wrong. He decided to monitor the children's screen time, ensuring that they only watched age-appropriate shows and engaged in suitable activities. They were also encouraged to talk about anything they had seen on TV, helping them understand their thoughts and feelings. In addition to these changes, Carter arranged for both Alex and Emma to speak with a counselor. They knew their children needed guidance to understand their emotions as they recovered from their experiences. The family made a conscious effort to spend more quality time together. In the evenings, Mrs. Carter would read stories to Alex and Emma before bed, while Mr. Carter kept them engaged in fun games. Gradually, the siblings started laughing again, rediscovering their bond through positive, healthy activities. It was a journey, but the Carters were committed to ensuring their children grew up in a safe and nurturing environment, free from the dangers of inappropriate content. Months passed, and the Carters became a more attentive and present family. Mrs. Carter made a conscious decision to reduce her work hours, making her family a priority. Mr. Carter, who had always been busy with work, started dedicating his weekends to spending time with Alex and Emma. Under this new attention and love, the children blossomed. Alex and Emma felt more confident, knowing they could approach their parents about anything on their minds.